Darkness, what do you think about Sonic Heroes? Hey Darkness, what do you think? Listen, guys, probably should have done this years ago, but I have my reasons for avoiding the topic because I'm delaying the inevitable, I apologize. So, Sonic Heroes is a weird game for me because I think it's a weird game for everybody. It's probably one of the more polarizing games in the Sonic library, mostly because of a few reasons. Not all of them are the game's fault necessarily, but you have to consider a couple factors when it comes to Sonic Heroes. A, it was the first 3D Sonic game to come out after Sonic Adventure 2, which is considered by many to be the best 3D Sonic game ever made, or at the very least, the best one of that particular era. And then you have to consider it was the first 3D Sonic game after Sega went multi-platform and stopped making consoles. This was a bit of a polarizing thing back then. I still remember being on message boards and people being all indifferent and weird about it because we lost. And you know, some of us not over it. It's just one of those things. You sit there and you're just like, but what if Sega had doubled down on that Dreamcast and went full headlong into it with like something amazing, like a new Sega console called the Sega Divine or something. I don't know, it's way too late for that idea. Anyway, the point is that there was a lot of pressure on Sonic Heroes, which really made it a hard sell in the first place. And then you have to take into account that Sonic Heroes was not made at all like a typical Sonic game. It was very ambitious in terms of what it was trying to do, and I would admit it's very innovative in terms of its style. Because of the polarizing nature of this game, I took a long time to first off get up the idea of getting a review. I started doing a little bit of a let's play of it. I'll probably stream it again. I wanted to look at Sonic Heroes in a bit of a different style than I usually do, and I don't just mean because I'm standing up. Because I'm sure someone's in the comments like, Darkness, you're standing up. Why are you standing up? Sit down, get comfortable, and then edit more reviews. Why are you doing skits? That's why we don't watch your videos anymore. That's why everybody hates you, Darkness. And you should remember that as you try to fall asleep at night and fail miserably. And then when you do, you fall into a horrific night terror about all the horrible mistakes over your meaningless existence that will never amount to anything, you fucking failure. I'm beginning to think I have some issues. So anyway, different style that is definitely not taking a cue from a popular 90s cartoon that I happen to enjoy. Let's get into it. Good idea. The graphics and the sound, in many ways, are actually pretty interesting. I'd say the visuals are definitely a throwback to more classic style Sonic games as opposed to the adventure style, which I think was a neat touch. It's a nice throwback that we hadn't seen in a while at that point. In addition, the music is excellent, and the character themes for each individual team, of which there are 4, are all well done and unique in their own way. Bad idea. The character models are frickin' disgusting and I hate them, and I always will hate them, and nobody will ever tell me any differently about this. You have to look at things from my perspective here. I ask you, any of you, just tell me why the characters are shiny. What is that? It's like they all bathe themselves in hair gel and like, or baby oil or some weird kinky nonsense. I don't know. The point is that they look weird and they clash horrifically with what would be really well-designed and textured backgrounds. And yet, here we are, with these weird models that just don't fit with the style of the game. And for some reason, and this drives me up the wall, they look worse than the models I thought we had in Adventure 2. They looked really good, I thought. I mean, they could use, a little bit of, texture overhaul, but making them shiny was not the option here. I don't get it. And the models are fine. I mean, the shape of the characters is fine in itself. It's the shiny that I can't get over. It's like there's always a lens flare on every single character. Even characters that I feel like just shouldn't have that. Good idea. The gameplay is centered around the idea of these 4 different teams. There's 12 Sonic characters in this game, which sounds like a lot, because it is. But Each character is separated into teams of 3. And each story is separated into 4 different stories. So you're not playing 12 different stories, you're playing 4. And the idea is that each team, with 3 members, each has a specific trait. Namely speed, fly, and strength. And each one gets rotated as the game progresses. They get past different obstacles or take different paths. It's an interesting idea, and I really like that they tried to do something a little bit differently. I also find it hilarious that they felt the need to bring back the Chaotix for an extra team, which I thought was a great idea, but it's even better when you consider the fact that Knuckles Chaotix had that weird ring binding system, and you were always in teams of 2. That would also change how the game was played. So it's kind of an evolution of that idea, and I think bringing back those characters for a game like this was a neat concept. Bad idea. Why are the controls awful? I can't get a grip on these controls, and I swear to you, it's not just me. Alright, and I know someone's gonna be like, oh, you just need to practice the game. Maybe if you just got good at the game, maybe then you wouldn't have much of a problem. Obviously, you're not a top-tier Sonic player like I am, and I am superior in every conceivable way, and you will never amount to my grasping of the blue blur mechanics. Prick. But seriously, it doesn't matter who I'm playing as or what, form I'm taking when it comes to the teams, I am always feeling like I'm on ice. And it doesn't help that turning and it just, and even the movement feels really, really, really clippy and janky, and it doesn't flow nearly as well as it did in SA2, which was near perfect when it came to this idea. So what the hell happened here? And it gets even worse when you get to the casino level, which I would enjoy, except for the itsy-bitsy little problem that they decided to add a pinball table. Which again, good idea, but it doesn't work ever at all in the way you expect it to, because they use the same physics in the pinball table as they do in the rest of the game. And I can assure you, this game engine was not built for a goddamn pinball table, because it does not work in any way, shape, or form. Good idea. Long, multiple act levels with multiple paths. As I mentioned, each level has multiple paths, and I really like that idea. You can actually find yourself a little bit immersed in the environment here. There's actually an exploration element in certain aspects, and it's nice to have a level that's not just run straight to the end. You can look around like a typical platformer, and there's secrets to find and stuff like that. So again, it's a nice throwback to the classic Sonic levels of old. Bad idea. Rehashing every single level! I'm really not exaggerating here when I say that each level was rehashed, because they literally rehashed the same levels through every single one of the team's story. It doesn't matter whether you're Team Sonic, or Team Dark, or Team Rose, or Team Chaotix. You play the same levels every single story, in the same order, in the same way. The only difference, which I admit this is the case, is that some of the levels will shorten depending on who you're playing. For example, Team Rose's levels are not nearly as long as Team Dark's. And if you're playing as Team Chaotix, they always have a weird objective. Like, for example, in the very first level, in order to prove their worth as detectives, they have to find hermit crabs. Or shells, or some shit like that. I don't remember exactly what it was. Also, how would that prove anything when it comes to detective work? I don't get that. Yes, Watson, I do believe we have to find hermit crabs. Mr. Holmes, are you okay? Yes. Most fortuitous, it appears one of them left a shell behind. One is nearby. Perhaps if we explore through the sand, we might deduce the location of the home of the hermit crab. Mr. Holmes, have you been drinking again? I don't get it, and the real problem with the rehashed levels is it makes the game such a grind. I wouldn't mind the levels being long, if not for the fact that you have to play through them 4 times each, and it's just such a grindy nightmare that way. And to get 100% completion, you have to do this. You have to get the true ending, you have to do this. Like, there's no way around doing this. And you're like, well, that's the way the game is played. But we just got done with SA2, which had a crap ton of original, unique levels with different characters to play through. You could tell there was more effort in that game when it came to the environments you were in. Each level, even if they rehashed assets, which I can assure you, Sonic Heroes does that a lot, still managed to feel unique when it was Adventure 2. But in Heroes, not only do I feel like I'm in the same place, because I am, but the rehashed assets are gloriously and outrageously obvious. You will literally feel like you have been in the same place before when you're in the same level as the same team. Because you have, because they rehashed the assets. And listen, you can't just throw us into the same thing over and over again and expect. This is literal insanity, is what I'm trying to say. I can't believe they did this. Good idea. Having a plot with an interesting twist. So the story of Sonic Heroes seems pretty stock, with Dr. Robotnik threatening some nonsense. But later you find out it was never Robotnik. Spoilers on this, but it was actually Metal Sonic the entire time, which would be a great twist, and I would have loved it if not for one simple problem. Bad idea. Spoiling the twist repeatedly during the course of the game. There's no mystery here. Okay, at the end when it's like, oh my god, it was actually Metal Sonic, you as the gamer are like, yeah, I know, because the game tells you repeatedly the entire time. It was never Eggman. He was captured because Metal Sonic went rogue, and the whole time it was actually him. But the game revealed it. We already knew that was going to happen. So when the twist actually happens, it doesn't actually mean anything. I mean, I love Black Knight's twist because it came out of nowhere in left field. Like, I had no way of knowing that that was going to happen in that game, you know, when it came to Merlina and all that nonsense. But here, the game tells you it. So what's the point of having a twist if you're not actually gonna make it a twist? If there's no surprise, it doesn't mean anything as a twist. That's just writing 101. I don't get it. Speaking of writing 101, good idea. Bringing Shadow back. Shadow's a cool character. I like Shadow. I was sad that he died in SA2. And the fact that he's back, and he's still, you know, kicking around in his edgelord status, hanging with his homies, Rouge, and this new character, E123 Omega, the ultimate E-Series robot, in Team Dark, with the Edge, and they're trapped in this machine. Don't know how long we will as the Eggman's warrior. I liked it, okay? I did. I really did. Bad idea. Bringing Shadow back. I trust there's some confusion, but let me explain. You know, when you bring Shadow back immediately after his noble sacrifice at the end of SA2, you just lose something in that moment. Like, there was a sense of loss in SA2, and it made that ending mean a lot when it came to us as fans. You know, that was probably one of the best written Sonic stories out of all the games. And when you in a sequel immediately decide, everyone likes Shadow, let's bring him back immediately. Like, no, don't do that. Do that? Again, polarizing. Like, I like Shadow, and I like that he's back, but I also dislike that he's back because it ruins the sense of loss at SA2. Suddenly, that ending and everything that happened doesn't mean anything. And it doesn't help that they went through great lengths to make Shadow have this edgy amnesia. He remembers nothing of who he was. Yet he still knows how to use Chaos Control and all his powers and shit. It doesn't really make much sense if he can't remember anything. Also, I'm really annoyed here when it comes to this whole Shadow can't remember anything. Okay, I get that he has amnesia and shit, and there's a weird plot where they think he might actually be a robot, an android. Couple problems with this. But first of all, if you're worried that he's an android, there are many ways to check that he might be. You know, like, oh, does he eat? Does he cry? Does he produce? Does he go to the bathroom? Does he produce? Skin oil? I don't know. Anything. Like, there's a lot of things that robots just can't do. Even in this time frame. Or at the very least, he's edgy. Just give him a knife and have him cut his arm open a little bit. Like, if he's real, is the ultimate life form, I'm sure he'll heal just fine. And if he's android, you can tell. There are ways to solve this mystery. I think they would have been a lot better off if they actually went with the idea that this might be a clone Shadow. Because when it's a clone, that's entirely different. Because he would be organic then. So there wouldn't be any way to really tell, the difference between him or the original Shadow. So there'd be more of an air of mystery. And maybe they didn't want to go with the cloning thing because that would make the whole thing cliche. And then they have to deal with the idea that Eggman has an army of Shadow clones, which is way more intimidating. And apparently they didn't want to do that because that would be too much work. I don't know. But also, he has amnesia. Okay, and I get that. But everyone's like, oh, we have to solve the mystery of Shadow's past. Do we? Because, outside of the Chaotix, most of you were there. You watched this shit happen, okay? Rouge, you read the files. You're like his closest friend. Can somebody, anybody, any of you, be a pal, be a friend, Rouge, especially you, because I know you care about him. Open your mouth and just tell him what you know about his past. At no point do any of these characters take that initiative. Not a single one. And that's just insane to me. And it's not like she even tried. And, and Shadow was like, no, don't tell me. I will find the truth on my own. Which, okay, I could actually see Shadow saying that. So I would take that, but she never even attempts. She never even attempts to explain who he is to him. Why? Why wouldn't you even try to help him through this fucking crisis? If you're, oh wait, well it's because she's worried that he might be a robot. Oh, and again we're back to point one. There are a gajillion ways to solve the issue, especially at the end when Omega is basically like, yeah, he's not a robot. Why? Because Omega doesn't want to kill him. Because Omega can kind of tell whether or not this is the real Shadow. And it makes perfect sense this would be the real original Shadow because he was locked all on his own in a pod. Good idea. Bringing back the special stages. Oh yes, I almost forgot. Sonic Heroes did add the idea of special stages, where you have to go and get the Chaos Emeralds and that idea. Nothing about the special stages makes any sense and they're awful. Okay, Shadow already has a Chaos Emerald when he uses his Team Blast. I forgot to mention that. Each team has a Team Blast ultimate attack where they can just, obliterate everything around them, which is cool. But he already has an Emerald there, so that's a huge gaping plot hole, but whatever. In any event, those special stages, again, are operating off of the same engine as the rest of the game. And for the love of God, this engine is not multi-purpose! And it barely works for the core mechanics. It definitely doesn't work for pinball tables, and it certainly doesn't work for special stages. I feel more jaggedy here than I have in the rest of the game. Control is nearly impossible, making these special stages way more difficult than they actually should be. Because otherwise, they would be okay. I mean, they're kind of like the half-pipes from Sonic 2, so that's fine. I don't mind that. And they have an interesting idea taking advantage of the mechanics to switch the team member to get, a different spread of the characters, because when you're strength, you're in like a straight line, but when you're aerial, you're going straight up, and then when you're speed, just runs. Everyone just runs. There's no order here. But in any event, the point is they try to take advantage of that, but the controls do not allow for the kind of precision that the special stages demand. And yeah, it's not very much fun. And it doesn't help that to get into the special stage, oh, that's even better. So to get the special stage, you have to get a key from the level, and then get to the end of the level with the key. Now, that sounds really simple. Problem. The key, you lose it after you get hit exactly one time, and you cannot get it back. Now, there are at least 3 keys spread out throughout the level, so you might have another chance to get it, but really, one hit? Okay, You know, if it were any other game, I might be able to tolerate that, but I get gypped, off-screened, or just screwed over by the controls so often in this game that it makes keeping the key just such a frickin' chore. And to make matters worse, you can only get into the Chaos Emerald special stage if you are in the second act of a level. It does not work if you are in the first act. This is relevant because the second acts of these levels are often much harder because the developers hate you. That is my assumption. That is my ongoing assumption here, in that these developers hate you. They hate me, they hate all of us. They just hate. They're angry that they're not developing on the Dreamcast, so they said to themselves, yes, let's just make them suffer for not buying enough Dreamcasts to support Sega. That is my going assumption on that. I don't have any other words to... How else do you want me to put it? Good idea. The return of Metal Sonic. I already mentioned they ruined the twist with him, but admittedly I do think it's nice that Metal Sonic's back. I mean, hey, he's one of the most popular Sonic villains, and it's nice to see his return, especially in 3D form, because up until this point outside of Sonic R, which... no, he's never been in a 3D Sonic game. So it was nice to see him included. Bad idea. Never letting you actually fight real Metal Sonic. See, part of the plot is that Metal Sonic has decided he can now copy different DNA structures from the different characters. And, okay, whatever. Anyway, more on that in a second, but the point is he ends up evolving to this metal overlord magnet. You have to go Super Sonic to stop him. Mind you, Super Sonic, not Super Tails or Knuckles, because again, the developers hate you. Missed opportunities. But you don't actually fight Metal Sonic in his cool new form ever. He immediately turns into this ridiculous monster, and it's just really anticlimactic feeling. It's not like the Bio-Lizard fight where it really built up, or even with Chaos, because there was a lot of build-up with Chaos because you fought him multiple times throughout the course of the game in different forms. With Metal Sonic, it's just like, I'm here, you already knew that, time to go into my final form, and it's just like, okay, that's great, this doesn't mean a whole lot to me. Good idea. Having the multiple teams with multiple Sonic characters included. I really do like the idea they included all these different characters, especially the Chaotix, because we hadn't seen them in a while, into the game. The game's formula and its mechanics allow for this. So this is the one time where so many characters included in the game doesn't feel overbearing or overwhelming, because again they're restricted to 4 different teams. And all the teams cooperate and work together. And, you know, it's just a nice idea, and I like seeing these characters, you know, all included and actually relevant to the plot, which a lot of the times when they include so many characters, they don't necessarily mean anything. Though admittedly, now that I think about it, that didn't start happening until after this game. This was the first time they did that overwhelmingly. It was also the last time they did it where it didn't mean absolutely nothing. Bad idea. Not giving all the main characters sufficient motivation to be there. I'm gonna skip over Team Dark because I feel like every single one of them has basic motivations when it comes to their story. Shadow wants to find out who he is, Omega just wants to crush everything that Eggman stands for because he is mad at Eggman for abandoning him, and Rouge is trying to steal stuff and take care of Shadow. So okay, that's fine. Team Sonic, I'll also buy to a degree. Sonic wants to stop Eggman, that's typical. Tails wants to go with him, because of course he does. Knuckles! The Master Emerald doesn't come up once during this game. This is the first time this has really happened to a degree where I'm bothered by it. Like, dude, he's just chilling in the plane, and he's like, yeah, I'll help you guys, whatever, I don't even care. And it's like, okay. Following that, Team Rose is another one that's odd, because... So basically, how do I explain this? Alright, Amy wants to find Sonic because she just really wants to sit on his face. It's really important to her. And we all knew that. That's been her thing for a while now. But then we have Cream and Big, who are the other 2 members of Team Rose. So these 2 have different motivations that don't involve banging somebody, as far as I know. Because apparently Sonic is now accused of kidnapping Cheese's brother, sister, I forget, Chocola, which is a different Chow, and apparently also kidnapping Froggy. Because these are things that Sonic would do. Apparently. You know, at no point do they consider that, wow, why would Sonic ever do that? They don't question it. And Amy's still completely in love with him, despite the fact that, allegedly, he kidnapped, you know, her best friends, you know, also best friends. There's a lot of friendship with Team Rose. I mean, I guess it makes sense. It makes sense that it's actually Metal Sonic who did it. Duh. It makes sense he would do that because Chaos was effectively a mutated Chow, and Froggy once had Chaos's DNA inside him, so he would need both to kind of reconstitute Chaos's DNA, so he could include it into his structure and, you know, in his whole evil plan. So that part I buy. What I don't buy is that they don't really question that this was Sonic, and even when they find Sonic, which is pretty early in both their stories, like they accuse him immediately without even trying to talk, and Amy's just all about the marrying thing. I mean, is there other motivation I'm missing here? I'm just saying, I mean, we have Amy wanting Sonic. Does Cream also want Tails because she's like Amy's best friend and they both fly and they're both little kids? I mean, they're probably too young to be in an actual relationship because Cream is like 6, Tails is like 8, but still, I mean, you know, when they get older, I'm just saying, okay, I could see like there's a little like kindergarten crush going on here, but then we have the problem of Knuckles, I want you. Knuckles, I want you inside. I just want to devour you. Then you have Team Chaotix, which I don't know where to begin. They run a detective agency now. Espio's a ninja. Charmy's annoying. Vector listens to music, but he's the leader. And they're detectives on the case. And they're like the worst detectives ever. But I guess to be fair, their whole story is kind of played up for laughs. Knuckles, did you know that cats have barbed penises? Ultimately, I just feel like Sonic Heroes is a flawed game. It has a lot of problems. But is it bad? I guess it's hard for me to really throw it out the window as crap, because looking at it, I can see in a lot of ways what they were trying to do here. The innovation is really nice because of the team gameplay. The environments are designed to be retro style, so that's a nice throwback. The music's good. And, you know, my reservations with the plot, again, I see what they were trying to do. I guess Sonic Heroes' big problem is that the flaws do tend to outweigh the positives, in my opinion. And the fact that it came out after Sonic Adventure 2, which was better in almost every conceivable way. And I know it's not Sonic Heroes' fault. I mean, it was the first time Sega was developing on multiple platforms when it comes to a game like this. When it comes to developers learning new, you know, intricacies of the other consoles. So again, I kind of follow the problem here. I guess my best way of explaining Sonic Heroes is this. If you can look over all the flaws I've mentioned, and looking at the game you think you might actually have fun with it, I would say give it a try. It has aged horrifically, but maybe you'll still like it. Maybe you can look past it. And it's nice to be able to appreciate a game like this. And it probably was the last game released for Sonic until he really went downhill for a while there. So, you know, looking at that, especially what came afterwards, it's not the worst thing in the world. So till next time, this is Darkness, and I bid you all a fond farewell. Mr. Big, why are you with us? Oh, I just want some of that BRD. What does BRD stand for?